Welcome to the first Texaco Mile in Halifax. I'm Paul Meunier with Norm Tinkham, no stranger to road racing fans in the Maritimes, a fine middle-distance runner. Norm, we've got two very important races coming up later in the program, the men's elite and the women's elite. Paul McCloy has to be considered the favorite in the men's, a man that you've raced against many times in competition.
Yes, he's definitely going to be the man to beat, and he has a great finishing kick, so it should be good.
In the women's elite?
Nadia Shi of Montreal should be the favorite, but there's definitely going to be some local girls in there.
We've also got the mass race, 3 separate races featuring an open field, whoever wants to compete, and the Miracle Mile, which is just about to begin. Let's go to the start line. There are 10 starters for the Miracle Mile, the Texaco Miracle Mile, all from the Halifax-Dartmouth area, and they're off. But not to a very good start. You see that a lot in wheelchair track events, but they are off together now. They are fairly close together at this point. This is early in the race, but we will see a leader move ahead, and here he comes from the outside. That is Philip Sutherland. Our 10 starters are Philip Sutherland, Jamie Bone, Clary Stubbart, Brian Ward, Laurie Granton, Mickey Herron, Graham McKenzie, Mark Church, Sam Lafford, and Fred Canavan. And in the lead now, as a lot of onlookers take in the Miracle Mile, Philip Sutherland of Halifax, early in the race, and he is going to build up a sizable lead here. Philip Sutherland recently participated in the Winnipeg Marathon for disabled athletes, finished in a time of 2 minutes, or make that 2 hours and 40 minutes, very good time. Also competed at the recent National 10K event. He has been a wheelchair athlete, disabled athlete, for just over a year now. He is a Class 5 disabled athlete as we look from above at Philip Sutherland, who now has a wide lead. He suffered a spinal cord injury as a member of the Canadian Forces. He was working with the Canadian Airborne Unit at Petawawa. It was a parachute accident, and just last year he began competing in disabled sports. As we look at Clary Stubbart, who is in second place at this point, and Norm Tinkham, you can see that it's a pretty tough job getting up an incline. That is not a tremendous incline, but you were telling me earlier today that when you raced with, well, I guess you didn't race with Rick Hansen, but when you accompanied him during part of his stretch through the Maritimes, you would very often run by him when he was going uphill, or even have to stop or walk along, and then of course he blew you away in the downhills.
Exactly. There was a group of us that did a bit of running with him, and you know, I was quite surprised. I guess I was a bit naive about wheelchair athletics, and they don't go very fast up the hill, of course, because they've got to move the whole wheelchair with their arms, but you really realize how hard they're working once you've been out there with them.
And there he is, Clary Stubbart, and here he is, our leader, and in fact to be our winner, Philip Sutherland of Halifax, finishing in a good time, 5 minutes and 32 seconds, followed by Clary Stubbart. And here is our last place finisher, Brian Ward. All 10 of them, though, very good sports, good athletes, taking part in the Miracle Mile, part of Texaco's program to raise the awareness of young drivers in Canada about driving safely. And here we are at the first mass mile. This is an interesting feature of the Texaco Mile. Essentially, what we have is 3 open races. Anybody can compete, and this is a great grassroots involvement by the runners of Halifax, Dartmouth, and surrounding areas. We have had tremendous participation at the first inaugural Texaco Mile by the grassroots runner. People who are not, Norm, in your caliber or in Paul McCloy's caliber, but there are a number of people out there who race recreationally.
Yes, but they're all very fit. We should see this mile in well under 5 minutes, which definitely is faster than the average person can run. And you know, these runners are good, and it's great to see so many of them out there.
Off the top, we're rounding the first corner in the race, and they are moving quickly. I guess perhaps the temptation is when you're running a short mile race, it's not a great distance. When you first approach it, I'm sure at the end of the mile, you felt that you've run quite a considerable distance. As we look at this, the under 29 class, and you can see that we do have some competitors who are indeed under the age of 29 years. But I guess there is a temptation, Norm, to take off in a hurry when you're going for a short distance like 1 mile. Definitely.
I think we'll see a lot of these people string out here. They went through the first 465 seconds, and that's a pace of 4:20, and I don't think we'll see too many people running 4:20, but we should see quite a few running under 5 minutes.
And they are stringing out now, and here is our leader. This is a gentleman that you do know, Norm.
Yes, this is Patrick McKenzie of Halifax, and he's followed not far behind by Danny Vonnie, a former Canada Games member for Nova Scotia, and it should be an interesting race, although Patrick looks like he's got it in control at this point.
As we we take a look back at the women and some of the other participants, younger, older. I believe that is Beth Renouf will be competing in the Masters race a little later in the day with her children today. Really a family event, these these open mass races, and it's great to see that many involved. Back at the front, that is Patrick McKenzie, and that is Danny Viney, who is following. Patrick McKenzie from Halifax, Dan Viney from New Minas. Norm, you've seen Dan Viney in competition. In fact, when he was younger, I guess he was quite the speedster. Yes,
well, he was on the 81 Canada Games team, and definitely was. I had some good races with him in high school, and it's good to see him still out there. I think he's had a good race today, but Patrick has managed to pull it out and looks quite strong coming into the finish.
And I said earlier, obviously still is a pretty good speedster, because we're looking at some pretty good times there. 4:36.72 for Patrick McKenzie, 4:40.84 for Danny Viney. This is an open race. Anybody could compete today. Those are very high caliber times we're looking at.
Definitely, those are great times. Those guys are very fit.
And here are the women's winners. Number 84, Carol Blair of Armdale, with a time of 5:36.96, followed by Rachel Lee Mosier, 5:37.14. Winners in the 30 to 39 race, Ann Nugent of Halifax at 5:48, and Dennis Nickerson, also of Halifax. And this is the Masters race. These runners are 40 years of age and over, and this should be an entertaining race. Again, some great participation. Norm, we've got a lot of Masters division runners in this region of the country.
We probably have perhaps the best per capita in terms of performance. You know, we have a lot of good Masters runners here, and you can see that they're going along well there. Walter Williams is up there on the right, and he's one of our best.
He certainly is. Right now, though, the lead belongs to the man in the green shorts, number 132, Paul Brody, and as I speak, he's losing that lead. I think he may have burned it off in his opening kick. Maybe should have been saving that kick till the end. I guess that does happen, as we have mentioned earlier.
Definitely. I think he looks like he might have gone out a little hard. Walter is taking it out hard as well. But, you know, he can probably handle it because he has all that strength from his marathon training.
That's right. Walter, a very fine marathoner. He has been running for a long time now. In fact, he is getting ready for the Barbados Marathon, December 6th. His wife, also an avid runner, Bev, a teacher in Dartmouth. She would have competed today had she not been training for an upcoming marathon. She did about 20 miles today, so I guess she wasn't up for a mile. But Walter Williams, certainly a fine runner, and in fact, a good miler when he was younger. Let's go back to 1961 at Wanderers Grounds in Halifax, the Canadian Track Mile Championships. He did 4:20.4, exactly 10 seconds behind Bruce Kidd. So that is a time that I don't know if we will achieve today, but 4:20, certainly a very respectable time on the mile. As we watch, Walt Williams, 45 years old, works for Environment Canada, and he is well on his way to finishing first in the Masters race, men's race, 40 and over. The women are also coming along, but Walter Williams will finish with a very good time, followed by Dick Barker, Wayne Wright, and Barry Corbin. And at the bottom of your screen there is Helen Jeppesen of Truro, who is in good shape to finish with a pretty good time for a lady who is 65 years old. As we watch Walter Williams take the finish in 4:47. Walter Williams, the Dartmouth winner of the men's race by just over 12 seconds. The women's winner, Beth Renouf of Halifax, in a time of 5:44. And there's our third place finisher, Helen Jeppesen, in a time of 8 minutes and 11 seconds from Truro. A fine performance by Helen today. Coming up on the Texaco Mile on ATV, the women's elite race.